When a raging anti-Trump judge tries to crush Karoline Leavitt in court, he thinks he's untouchable, until Leavitt flips the script with evidence so explosive it leaves the room gasping. But here's the kicker. Just when you think justice is served, a shadowy figure pulls the strings and the whole game changes. This isn't your average courtroom drama. It's a battle where power, corruption, and truth collide, and no one walks away clean. Before we dive in, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from, and who do you think's behind it all? Buckle up, because what starts as a simple testimony spirals into a web of lies so deep, even the FBI can't predict the end. One question lingers. Will Leavitt outsmart the system, or become its next victim? Let's find out. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation, but Judge Leonard Grayson was already on edge. "Who left this damn table a mess?" he snapped, his voice cutting through the hum like a blade. "I don't want to see a single thing out of place again. Fix it now." The court clerk fumbled with some papers, her hands shaking under his glare. Grayson leaned back in his chair, his face twisted with irritation, clearly itching for a fight. That's when Karoline Leavitt stepped up to the witness stand, her posture steady, her voice even. "I'm here to present the truth, Your Honor," she said, each word measured like she was diffusing a bomb. Grayson didn't miss a beat. "Don't bring your fancy political nonsense in here," he barked, slamming a hand on his desk. "I don't have time for this circus. I run a courtroom, not a stage for your conservative sob stories." His eyes narrowed, daring Leavitt to push back. The air grew thick, every onlooker sensing the storm brewing. Leavitt didn't flinch. "I'm just here as a witness, Your Honor," she replied, calm as ever, "to clarify the facts about the Liberty Faith Foundation's finances." That set Grayson off. "Facts," he sneered, his tone dripping with contempt. "You think I care about your version of facts? Keep your mouth shut unless I ask you a question, or I'll slap you with contempt so fast you won't know what hit you." He jabbed a finger toward Leavitt, his voice rising. "I've dealt with your kind before, strutting in here like you own the place. Not today." The gallery shifted uncomfortably, but Leavitt just nodded slightly, her expression unreadable. "Understood, Your Honor," she said, her restraint almost maddening in its coolness. Grayson wasn't done. "You think you can waltz in and play hero? I've seen a dozen like you. Big talk, no substance. This is about tax evasion, plain and simple, not some grand tale of charity." He snatched up a stack of papers and waved them like a weapon. "Your little foundation's accused of dodging millions, and I'm not here to listen to excuses." Leavitt opened her mouth, but Grayson cut her off again. "I said quiet. One more word, and you're in cuffs. Got it?" The threat hung heavy, and the clerk froze mid-step, glancing nervously between the two. Leavitt stayed composed, her hands resting lightly on the stand. "I'll wait for your questions, Your Honor," she said, her tone so even it almost sounded like a challenge. Grayson's face reddened. "Oh, you'll wait all right," he growled. "I'm the law here, not you, not your buddies in Washington, me. And I say when you talk." He slammed his gavel down, the crack echoing sharply. "Let's get this straight. I don't give a damn about your title or your fan club. You're nothing special in my courtroom." The defense attorney, Rebecca Stein, couldn't hold back anymore. "Your Honor, this is out of line. She's just trying to testify," she protested, standing up fast. Grayson wheeled on her. "Sit down, Stein, or you're next," he roared. "I'm sick of this tag team act. You think you can gang up on me? I'll have you both locked up." Stein hesitated, then sank back into her seat, her jaw tight. Grayson smirked, turning back to Leavitt. "Go ahead, try me. Give me a reason to throw you out." Leavitt didn't take the bait. "I'm here to assist the court, Your Honor," she said, her voice still steady, like she was reading from a script she'd memorized. "The Foundation's records are clean. I can prove it." Grayson laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Prove it? You're not proving anything unless I say so. I've heard enough of your sanctimonious crap already." He leaned forward, his eyes boring into Leavitt. "You conservatives love hiding behind your so-called values, faith, family, all that garbage. It's a front, and I see right through it." The gallery murmured, some nodding, others frowning, but Leavitt didn't react. "I'll stick to the evidence, Your Honor," she said, her words deliberate, almost too careful. Grayson's patience snapped. "Evidence? You don't decide what's evidence. I do. He pounded the gavel again, harder this time. You're wasting my time. One more smart remark and I'll have you hauled out in handcuffs. Press secretary or not. I don't care. The threat was personal now, and the room felt like it was holding its breath. Stein tried again, her voice shaking but firm. Your Honor, she's entitled to speak. This is a courtroom, not a dictatorship. Grayson's head whipped toward her. A dictatorship? You want to test me, Stein? I'll show you who runs this place. He pointed at the bailiff. Get ready to drag her out if she opens her mouth again. The bailiff shifted uneasily, caught between duty and disbelief. Grayson turned back to Leavitt, his voice low and venomous. You're on thin ice, Missy. Keep pushing and you'll regret it. Leavitt met his gaze, unflinching. I'm not here to push, Your Honor. Just to answer what's asked, she said, her calm like a wall Grayson couldn't break. The judge's hands clenched into fists. Oh, I'll ask, all right, he hissed. And you better pray I like your answers. Because I'm done playing nice. He leaned back, smirking again. This is my domain, my rules. You're just a guest, and a damn unwelcome one at that. The standoff was electric, every word a spark ready to ignite. Grayson's fury was a live wire, unpredictable and raw, while Leavitt's stillness only fueled it more. Let's hear it then, Grayson snapped, crossing his arms. But don't think for a second you're in control here. I am. He glared around the room, daring anyone to disagree. Anyone got a problem with that? Speak up. I'd love an excuse to clear this place out. No one did. The tension was suffocating, and Grayson seemed to revel in it. Leavitt, though, stayed quiet, waiting, her silence louder than any outburst. The stage was set, and the real fight was just beginning. Hey, quick question for you all, the narrator cut in, breaking the fourth wall YouTube style. Drop a comment. Who do you think's got the upper hand right now? Grayson's unhinged, but Leavitt isn't backing down. Tell me what you think. Grayson's temper flared hotter as the seconds ticked by, his eyes locked on Karoline Leavitt, like a predator sizing up prey. Start talking, he snarled. But don't you dare waste my time with your garbage. Leavitt adjusted her stance slightly, hands steady on the witness stand. I'd like to address the Foundation's financial records, Your Honor, she began, her voice smooth and deliberate, every syllable chosen with care. Before she could finish, Grayson cut her off, his shout rattling the room. I don't give a damn about your records. They're meaningless, pure trash. He slammed his fist down, the sound sharp and jarring. You think you can snow me with your numbers? I'm not some fool you can con. The Liberty Faith Foundation's books are open for review. Grayson said to the judge, her tone still even, like she was navigating a minefield. The Liberty Faith Foundation's books are open for review. Grayson's face twisted into a sneer. Open? You think I'm stupid enough to buy that? He roared, leaning forward so fast his chair creaked. I've seen your type, slimy politicians hiding behind spreadsheets. You're not fooling anyone? His voice boomed, thick with disgust. Keep it up, Leavitt. I'll have you in a cell by noon and I'll enjoy every second of it. The threat hung heavy, but Leavitt didn't waver. I only ask that the court consider the evidence, she replied, her calm almost infuriating in its consistency. It's all documented. Grayson laughed, a bitter, guttural sound that sent a chill through the room. Evidence? You don't get to tell me what's evidence. He grabbed his gavel and pounded it repeatedly, each strike louder than the last, as if trying to drown Leavitt out. You mention that damn foundation one more time, and I'll gag you myself. This is about tax evasion. Your little charity scam's done, and I'm burying it. Rebecca Stein shot to her feet, her voice sharp with frustration. This is unfair, Your Honor, she snapped, her hands clenched into fists. She's got a right to testify. You're shutting her down for no reason. Grayson's head whipped toward her, his eyes blazing. No reason? You're lucky I don't toss you out right now, Stein, he bellowed, pointing the gavel at her like a loaded gun. Sit down and shut up, or I'll have you both in cuffs, one big happy family behind bars. Stein's jaw tightened, her defiance warring with caution, but she didn't back off. You're turning this into a witch hunt, she shot back. She's not even on trial. Grayson's smirk was venomous. Witch hunt? Cute? Keep talking, Stein. I'll give you something to cry about. He swung the gavel again, the crack splitting the air. I'm sick of your whining. You think you can team up with her and push me around? I've crushed bigger fish than you two. He glared at Leavitt, his voice dropping to a menacing growl. And you? Don't think I don't know what you're up to, playing the saint, huh? I'll wipe that smug look off your face. Leavitt met his stare, unflinching. I'm not playing anything, Your Honor, she said, her words slow and precise. I'm here to answer your questions, nothing more. The restraint in her voice was a stark contrast to Grayson's unraveling fury, and it only stoked the judge's rage higher. Oh, you'll answer all right, Grayson hissed, leaning closer, but on my terms, not yours. You conservatives love your little games, faith this, family that. It's all a lie, and I'm not swallowing it. He jabbed a finger at Leavitt. You're a fraud, and I'll prove it. Stein couldn't stay quiet. She's not the one on trial here, she interjected, her tone rising with desperation. You're twisting this whole case. Where's the justice? Grayson wheeled on her again, his face flushed red. Justice? I am justice, he roared, slamming both hands on his desk. You don't like it? Tough. I've had it with you bleeding hearts defending every crook in a suit. He pointed at the bailiff. Get ready. I want them out if they blink wrong. The bailiff hesitated, his eyes darting between Grayson and the standoff unfolding. Leavitt spoke up, her voice cutting through the chaos with quiet force. I'm not here to argue, Your Honor, she said, each word a careful step. I'll stick to what the court asks, if you'll let me. Grayson's laugh was harsh and mocking. Let you? I don't let you do anything. I order you. He pounded the gavel again, the rhythm frantic now. You're on a leash here, Leavitt, and I'm holding it tight. One slip, and you're done. Both of you. He glared at Stein, then back to Leavitt, his chest heaving. You think you're untouchable? I'll show you who's untouchable. Stein's hands trembled, but she pushed back. This isn't a courtroom. It's a vendetta, she said, her voice cracking with anger. You're punishing her for who she is, not what she's saying. Grayson's eyes widened, his fury peaking. Who she is? She's a damn puppet. Strings and all, he shouted. And you're her cheerleader. I'll shut this circus down. Watch me. He swung the gavel so hard it skidded off his desk, clattering to the floor. The room went still, the sound punctuating his unraveling control. Leavitt stayed steady, her gaze locked on Grayson. I'll wait for your ruling, Your Honor, she said, her calm a lifeline in the storm. The truth doesn't need a fight. It just needs a chance. Grayson's hands shook as he retrieved the gavel, his breathing ragged. Truth? I'll give you truth, he muttered, his voice low and dangerous. You're finished here, both of you. Try me again, and I'll bury you deeper than your precious foundation. The tension was a live wire crackling between them. Grayson's hostility was a runaway train, while Leavitt's measured responses and Stein's fiery defiance painted a deeper picture, a judge out for blood, a witness holding her ground, and a lawyer caught in the crossfire. The stakes were climbing, and no one was backing down. Grayson's glare burned into Karoline Leavitt, his hands gripping the edge of his desk like he might leap over it. You've got nothing left to say, he sneered, his voice a low growl. This is over. But Leavitt didn't budge. She reached into her folder and pulled out a stack of papers, her movements slow and deliberate. Your Honor, she said, her tone steady as steel, these are transactions from the Liberty Faith Foundation to an account tied to you. May I explain? The room went dead silent, every eye snapping to Grayson, whose face twitched like he'd been slapped. Those are fake! Grayson exploded, his shout cracking through the stillness. You dare slander me with forged trash? His hands trembled as he glanced at a thick file on his desk, his eyes betraying a flicker of panic. He jabbed a finger at Leavitt. You're done. I'll rip you apart right here. His voice was shrill now, teetering on the edge of control. Leavitt didn't flinch. Can you account for the $300,000 deposited last month, Your Honor? She asked, her words sharp but calm, slicing through Grayson's rage like a blade. Grayson's mouth opened, then shut, his face flushing purple. You little, he sputtered, slamming both fists down. I'll tear you to pieces in this room, you hear me? You've got no proof." But the tremor in his hands told a different story, and the gallery caught it, whispers rippling through the crowd. Leavitt held her ground, her gaze locked on Grayson. "The records are dated and signed, Your Honor," she said, her voice measured, almost too calm. "I can walk you through them if you'd like." It wasn't a taunt, but it landed like one, and Grayson's eyes widened with fury. Before Grayson could fire back, Clara Evans, the court clerk, broke. "He made me burn files," she blurted, her voice cracking as tears streamed down her face. "I didn't want to. I told him it was wrong." She clutched her hands to her chest, her sobs cutting through the tension. Grayson wheeled on her, his face contorted. "You shut your mouth, Clara," he roared, his tone venomous. "You dare open your trap after everything I've done for you? I'll ruin you, your job, your life. Gone." He lunged toward her, stopping short as the bailiff stepped forward, unsure what to do. Clara shrank back, but her words kept spilling. "You told me to shred the Thompson case last year," she cried, her voice raw. "You said no one could know. It wasn't right." Grayson's head snapped back to Leavitt, then to Clara, his control unraveling. "She's lying," he shouted, pointing at her like she was a traitor. "She's in on this, some conspiracy to frame me." His voice cracked, desperation seeping through. Rebecca Stein leapt up, her eyes blazing. "She's not lying, and you know it," she snapped. "You're scared because she's got you cold." Grayson spun toward Stein, his gavel clutched tight. "You're next, Stein," he bellowed. "You think you can back her up and walk away? I'll have you disbarred." Stein didn't flinch, her fists clenched. "Go ahead and try," she shot back, her voice steady despite the chaos. "You're the one drowning here, not us." Grayson's laugh was manic, his hands shaking as he waved the gavel. "Drowning? I'm the damn king of this court. You're all ants. Ants I'll crush." But his bravado rang hollow, and the room could feel it. Leavitt seized the moment, her voice cutting through like a lifeline. "Your Honor, if these are fake, why's Clara breaking down?" she asked, her tone still even but pointed. "Why's your signature on every transfer?" Grayson froze, his eyes darting to the file on his desk, a file he hadn't touched all morning. "You planted that?" he screamed, his voice pitching higher. "This is a setup. Your people rigged it." He stabbed a finger at Leavitt. "You think you're clever? I'll bury you for this. I've got friends you can't touch." Stein smirked, stepping closer. "Friends who paid you off?" she pressed, her words dripping with defiance. "Those transfers aren't ghosts, Grayson. They've got your name all over them." Grayson's face twisted, his breath coming in short gasps. "Shut up," he yelled, swinging the gavel at her, stopping an inch from her face. The gallery gasped, and even the bailiff flinched. "You don't scare me," Stein said, her voice low and fierce. "You're finished, and you know it." Clara sobbed harder, her words tumbling out. "He threatened me. Said he'd frame my brother if I talked," she choked. "He's got files on everyone. He's not alone." Grayson's head jerked toward her, his eyes wild. "You stupid girl," he snarled, his voice breaking. "You've just signed your own warrant." He turned back to Leavitt, his hand shaking so badly the gavel slipped. "This isn't over. You hear me? I'll drag you all down." Leavitt didn't react, her calm a stark wall against Grayson's collapse. "I'm just presenting what I have, Your Honor," she said, her words slow and deliberate. "The court can decide what's real." Grayson's laugh was a jagged edge. "Decide? I decide?" he shouted, but his voice wavered, his authority slipping through his fingers. "You're a dead woman walking, Leavitt. I'll make sure of it." He clutched the file on his desk, knuckles white, as if it could save him. Stein leaned in, her voice cutting. "You're not deciding anything anymore," she said, her eyes locked on his. "You're exposed. Deal with it." Grayson's chest heaved, his rage battling his panic. "Exposed," he muttered, his gaze darting between them. "You've got nothing, nothing." But his trembling hands and Clara's tears said otherwise, and the room knew it. The power had shifted, and Grayson was scrambling to hold on. Grayson's hands shook as he clutched his desk, his voice a ragged snarl. You're all finished. I'll bury you, he spat, his eyes darting between Karoline Leavitt and Rebecca Stein. But before he could swing his gavel again, the courtroom doors burst open. Special Agent Michael Torres strode in, badge gleaming, flanked by 3 stone-faced FBI agents. "This court is under federal investigation for corruption," Torres announced, his voice cutting through the chaos like a gunshot. The gallery erupted in gasps, heads whipping toward Grayson, whose face drained of color. "You can't do this!" he screamed, hurling his gavel at Leavitt. It sailed past, crashing against the witness stand with a splintering thud. Leavitt didn't flinch, her calm unshaken. "I've got something else, Your Honor," she said, pulling a small recorder from her pocket. "A recording of you threatening a defendant's life if he didn't drop his case." She pressed play, and Grayson's voice crackled through the room. "Withdraw it, or you're a dead man. Your choice." The words hung like poison, and Grayson staggered back, his hands clawing at his robe. "That's a lie," he bellowed, his voice cracking. "It's doctored." "You framed me." But his wild eyes betrayed him, darting to Torres, then Leavitt, then the recorder. Torres stepped forward, his stare icy. "We've got more than recordings, Judge," he said, his tone clipped and unforgiving. "You ordered evidence destroyed in a case tied to the Liberty Faith Foundation, a case involving kids." The room froze, a collective inhale sucking the air out. "Child trafficking cover-up," Torres continued, his words landing like blows. "The witnesses' documents gone? On your say-so?" The gallery exploded in murmurs, some shouting in disbelief, others in horror. Grayson's knees buckled, his hands gripping the bench to stay upright. "That's insane," he yelled, but his voice was thin, desperate. "I'd never— You're making this up." Leavitt met Grayson's gaze, her voice steady as ever. "The FBI can sort it out, Your Honor," she said, slipping the recorder back into her pocket. "I'm not in a rush." Grayson lunged forward, his face a mask of rage. "I've got people, powerful people," he roared, spit flying. "You can't touch me. None of you can." His hands flailed, knocking papers off his desk, but Torres didn't blink. "Your people didn't warn you about us," he shot back, nodding to his agents. "Step away from the bench, Grayson. Now." The command was steel, and Grayson's bravado faltered, his chest heaving. Stein jumped in, her voice trembling with fury. "Kids?" she demanded, staring at Grayson like he was a monster. "You hid that? You're worse than corrupt. You're evil." Grayson spun toward her, his eyes wild. "Shut your mouth, Stein," he screamed, his voice breaking into a sob. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I had to." The admission slipped out, raw and unguarded, and Stein recoiled, her hands shaking. "Had to?" she repeated, her tone venomous. "You sold out children for what? Money? Power?" Grayson's face crumpled, his hands clawing at his hair. "You don't get it," he cried. "They forced me." Clara Evans sobbed louder, her voice cutting through the fray. "He's lying again," she choked, pointing at Grayson with a trembling finger. "He laughed about it, said no one would care." She turned to Torres, her tears streaming. "I heard him on the phone, bragging about how he'd cleaned it up. I begged him to stop." Grayson whirled on her, his face twisted in betrayal. "You sniveling rat," he snarled, lunging toward her. "I made you, Clara. I'll end you." The bailiff grabbed his arm, yanking him back, and Clara shrank into her chair, her cries muffled by her hands. Torres raised a hand, silencing the room. "Enough," he said, his voice low but commanding. "We've got the calls, the payments, the orders. Your prints are all over it, Grayson." He pulled a folder from his coat, flipping it open. $500,000 wired after that case vanished. Coincidence? Grayson's eyes widened, his breath hitching. "That's not— I didn't—" he stammered, but Torres cut him off. "Save it. You're done." He nodded to his agents, who moved toward Grayson, cuffs glinting. Grayson thrashed, his voice a desperate wail. "This is a setup. They're all in on it. Leave it. Her. Everyone." Leavitt stayed quiet, her gaze steady on Grayson. "I just brought what I found, Your Honor," she said, her words slow and deliberate, a lifeline of truth in the madness. Grayson's laugh was unhinged, his hands clawing at the air. "You sanctimonious bitch," he screamed. "You think you're clean? You'll burn for this, I swear it." Stein stepped closer, her voice a hiss. Burn? She said. You're the one who torched everything. Lives, trust, kids. Look at yourself. Grayson's eyes darted to her, then Clara, then Torres, his defiance crumbling into panic. Clara lifted her head, her voice shaking but resolute. He told me I'd go down too if I talked, she whispered, staring at Grayson. But I can't live with this anymore. You're a monster. Grayson's face twisted, his hands dropping to his sides. You ungrateful? He started, but his voice failed, his strength gone. Torres grabbed his shoulder, pulling him back. Time's up, he said, his grip firm. You're not walking away from this, not anymore. The room spun with chaos. Grayson's screams, Clara's sobs, Stein's fury, but Leavitt stood still, a rock in the storm. I hope the truth matters here, she said, her voice soft but piercing, directed at no one and everyone. Grayson's head snapped toward her, his eyes bloodshot. Truth? He rasped, his voice a broken shard. You'll see truth when they come for you, mark my words. The threat lingered, dark and heavy, as the agents dragged him toward the door, his robe trailing like a fallen king's cloak. The courtroom buzzed as Grayson's screams faded down the hall, the FBI agents hauling him away in cuffs. His robe dragged behind him, a pathetic shadow of the tyrant he'd been moments ago. But, as the chaos settled, his final words echoed in the silence. You think I'm the big fish? He'd sneered, his laugh sharp and mocking. Just wait. The gallery murmured, unease rippling through the crowd. Karoline Leavitt stood at the witness stand, her hands resting lightly on the wood, her face unreadable. Rebecca Stein paced nearby, her fists still clenched, while Clara Evans sat hunched, her sobs quieting into shaky breaths. Special Agent Michael Torres lingered by the bench, flipping through Grayson's files with a frown. Torres paused, pulling a single sheet from the stack, a handwritten note, edges creased like it'd been hidden in a hurry. Take down the conservatives, it read, signed with a single word. Hawk. Torres' jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing as he scanned it again. Grayson wasn't freelancing, he said, his voice low, holding the paper up for his team. Someone called Hawk was pulling strings, specific orders, specific targets. He glanced at Leavitt, then Stein, his gaze heavy with implication. The room shifted, the weight of his words sinking in. Clara lifted her head, her eyes red. Hawk, she whispered, her voice trembling. He mentioned that name once, on a call, said Hawk would handle it if I messed up. Leavitt stepped forward, her voice quiet but firm. If Hawk's real, we're not just fighting one judge, she said, turning to Stein. This could be bigger than the whole damn court system. Stein stopped pacing, her eyes locking on hers. Bigger how? She asked, her tone sharp, edged with exhaustion. You think this goes all the way up? Leavitt hesitated, her words careful. I don't know yet, she said, her calm masking a flicker of unease. But Grayson didn't sound like a man who'd bluff, not at the end. Stein's laugh was bitter, her hands running through her hair. Great, so we take down one snake, and there's a whole nest waiting. Torres tucked the note into his folder, his expression grim. We've got leads, he said, his voice steady but strained. Bank trails, encrypted calls. Someone's been funding this, and Grayson was just the tip. He looked at Clara, softening slightly. You hear anything else about Hawk? Names? Places? Clara shook her head, her hands twisting in her lap. He kept it vague, she murmured. But he was scared of him, really scared. Said Hawk had eyes everywhere. Her voice broke and she looked away, guilt etching lines into her face. I should have said something sooner. I was terrified. Stein crossed her arms, her stare drilling into Clara. Terrified? She snapped, her anger flaring. You let him burn evidence. Kids, Clara, you could have stopped this. Clara flinched, tears spilling again. I know, she cried, her voice raw. I hate myself for it. He had my brother's record, said he'd lock him up for life if I didn't obey. She buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking. Stein's expression softened, but only a fraction. Her jaw still tight. We're all paying for it now, she muttered, turning back to Leavitt. So what's your next move? You started this. Don't tell me you're done. Leavitt met her gaze, her voice slow and deliberate. I need time to dig deeper, she said, her restraint a shield. The truth's out there, but it's not simple, not with someone like Hawk in the shadows. Stein stepped closer, her eyes searching hers. Time? She pressed, her tone urgent. You think they'll wait for you to play detective? Grayson's gone, but this Hawk guy's still breathing down our necks. Leavitt didn't waver, her calm unshaken. I don't rush when the stakes are this high, she replied. One wrong step, and we're all targets. Stein's scoff was sharp. Targets? We already are. Thanks to you. Torres cut in, his voice firm. She's right, he said, glancing between them. This isn't over. Hawk's got reach, and he's not happy we've got his puppet in cuffs. He tapped the folder, his fingers tense. We're pulling Grayson's phone logs tonight. Might get a hit on who he was talking to. But you two? He pointed at Leavitt and Stein. Watch your backs. This isn't a game anymore. Leavitt nodded slightly, her expression unreadable. I never thought it was, she said, her words heavy with quiet resolve. Stein rolled her eyes, but there was fear behind her bravado. Fantastic, she muttered. From courtroom to hit list, perfect day. Clara stood, her legs unsteady, her voice barely audible. I'll help, she said, looking at Torres. Anything I heard, anything I saw, I'll tell you. I owe that much. Torres studied her, then nodded. Good, he said, his tone softening. You're not the enemy here, Clara, just caught in his mess. She wiped her eyes, her nod small but firm. Grayson's shadow still loomed, but her defiance was new, fragile but growing. Stein shot her a look, half pity, half distrust. Better late than never, I guess, she said, her voice dry. Hope it's worth something. Leavitt turned to Torres, her voice low. How deep do you think this goes? She asked, her calm masking a storm of questions. Torres shrugged, his eyes dark. Deep enough to scare me, he admitted. Grayson's a small fry compared to what's out there. Hawk's just a name for now, but names don't move millions without muscle. He paused, then added, You've stirred a hornet's nest, Leavitt. Hope you're ready for the sting. Leavitt's lips pressed into a thin line, her silence louder than words. I'll handle it, she said finally, her tones steady, but edged with steel. Stein crossed her arms, her voice cutting through. Handle it, she said, her eyes flashing. You're dragging us into a war, and you don't even know who's shooting. What if Hawk's closer than we think? Leavitt met her stare, her calm unwavering. Then we find out, she said simply. One piece at a time. Stein shook her head, her frustration boiling. One piece, she echoed, her voice tight. Hope we're still standing when you get to the last one. The room hung heavy with doubt, Grayson's exit exposing a bigger threat. Hawk loomed like a ghost, and the victory felt hollow, overshadowed by a creeping fear that justice might be out of reach. The courtroom cleared, and the Liberty Faith Foundation case was abruptly dismissed. Insufficient evidence, the new judge ruled, his voice flat and rushed. Karoline Leavitt stood outside, the crowd thinning around her, her face etched with quiet resolve. Rebecca Stein lingered nearby, her arms crossed, her eyes darting like she expected trouble. We won, sort of, she muttered, her tone laced with unease. Doesn't feel like it. Before Leavitt could respond, her phone buzzed. She answered, and a distorted voice hissed through. Stop digging, or we're at your house tonight. Your family, your loved ones, gone. The line went dead. Leavitt's hand tightened around the phone, her calm cracking for the first time, a flicker of fear in her eyes. Stein caught it, stepping closer. What was that? She demanded, her voice sharp. Leavitt hesitated, then met her gaze. A warning, she said, her words slow, deliberate, masking the storm inside. They're not done. Stein's jaw dropped, her anger flaring. Not done? Who? Hawk? Grayson? She grabbed her arm, her grip fierce. You're dragging us into a damn nightmare. Say something. Leavitt pulled free, her voice steady but low. I don't know who yet, she admitted. But I won't stop. Not now. Stein's laugh was bitter. You're insane, she said, stepping back. Brave, maybe, but insane. The bombshell hit moments later. Grayson walked free. A different judge, some faceless name, granted bail within hours, citing procedural errors. He strode past the courthouse steps, his smirk venomous, locking eyes with Leavitt. "I'll be back for you," he called, his voice dripping with malice. "Sleep tight." Clara Evans, hovering nearby, gasped, her hands trembling. "How?" she whispered, turning to Leavitt. "He was finished. I saw the cuffs." Leavitt's expression darkened, her calm strained. "Someone pulled strings," she said, her tone clipped. "Hawk, maybe, or higher." Clara's eyes widened, guilt flooding her face. "This is my fault," she choked. "I should have fought harder." Stein wheeled on her, her voice cutting. "Your fault," she snapped. "We're all in this mess. Stop whining and start thinking." Clara flinched, but nodded, her resolve hardening. "I'll dig too," she said, her voice small but firm. "I owe you that." Leavitt shook her head slightly. "Not yet," she said, her words careful. "It's too hot. Lay low." She turned to the crowd, her voice rising, steady but heavy. "Truth's never easy to find," she said, pausing as cameras flashed. "But I'm not giving up." The air hung thick with uncertainty. Justice flipped upside down, danger closing in. "Hey, you watching this?" the narrator cut in, YouTube style. "Want to know who Hawk is? Hit like, subscribe, let's figure this out together." Leavitt walked off, alone, the threat against her family echoing, leaving everyone, Stein, Clara, the audience, reeling, hungry for answers. Look, here's my take. Leavitt is a rock, standing tall when most would have cracked. Admirable, sure. But is she too stubborn? Chasing truth sounds noble, but with her family in the crosshairs, maybe she's gambling too much. Grayson's a slimeball, no question, and Hawk's shadow feels real, too real. Yet part of me wonders if this is bigger than one woman can handle. Justice got a win, then a gut punch. Does that mean it's broken or just messy? I lean toward messy. Systems bend before they break. What do you think? Hero or fool? Drop your thoughts below. I'm dying to hear. Huge thanks for sticking with this wild ride. Your views, likes, and comments keep it rolling. Hit that subscribe button, share this if it got you fired up, and let's unpack Hawk's next move together. Catch you in the next one.